bane. Ya na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na. I will build this world in love. Na 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 na. And you will build this world in love. Na 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 na. And if we build this world in love, na 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 na. Then God will build this world in love. Na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na. Olam chesedi bane. Ya na 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 na.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are happy to have you here with us. And of course, we are sad for the reasons that bring you here. While we wish we could be together in person instead of on Zoom, we warmly welcome you this evening into our virtual living room and hope that our time together brings you some measure of comfort as you continue to mourn during these challenging times. My name is Diane Halivni, Coordinator of Community Education at JCFS Chicago, and I will serve as our host. We are grateful to our special presenters, Cantor Rachel Rosenberg, Rabbi Joseph Ozorowski, Dr. Nancy Wagner, and Laurie Garber Amram for sharing their thoughts with us this evening. We also extend our heartfelt appreciation to Scott Bauer and his family and the board of the Laurie S. Bauer Foundation for Sudden Loss for their generous support of this program. The foundation was established by Laurie's friends and family in her honor to give help, healing, and hope to children and families that have suffered a sudden loss or crisis. Thank you very much for helping us support those who are grieving. And now we will review our plan for the evening. As I mentioned, we have wonderful presenters who have prepared meaningful remarks that will follow this order. We'll begin with a Dvar Torah from Rabbi Joe. And after that, we welcome Nancy Wagner back to share her reflections with us upon the 1-year anniversary of her husband Alan's unexpected death in April 2020. Glad to see you, Nancy. Following Nancy's reflections, my wonderful colleague, Laurie Garber Amram, will discuss the wilderness of grief, how we can better understand the many manifestations of grief during this time, and of their impact on us. Then we will have some quiet personal reflections while Cantor Rosenberg offers us a medley. And we will close our program with Cantor Rosenberg's thoughts on the role of music on the path to healing and remembering, and we will see a special musical presentation. So thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening, and just a few more quick announcements before hearing the wisdom of our presenters. Helpful hints, guidelines. So we want this to be a meaningful program for you, and if you need or want to talk to someone, a JCFS staff member is available during the program. So if you go to the chat function and find our dear colleague Carol's name, look for Carol, and you can let her know how to reach you. We will be recording, as you see we are recording, our presenters along with our PowerPoint slides. So we can share this on our website in the future and share it with anyone who you might think might be interested. If you're able and you want to see both the speaker and the slideshow simultaneously, please view the view option bar. I think it should be at the top right or the top center of your screen, and choose the side-by-side view. If you have any questions, you can also direct those to Carol. She can help. And at the conclusion of our formal program tonight at 8:30, we invite anyone who wishes to stay with us a little bit longer for some smaller breakout room conversations with Marcia Reynes or Rabbi Joe. Each of them will facilitate a small group and extend the opportunity to be in community a little bit longer, have small group conversations, share more about your grief journey. And we just really want you to know that you're not alone at this difficult time. That small group session is of course optional. So for anybody who wishes to say goodnight at 8:30 or anytime, please do so and just sign off either at the end of our last song, the musical presentation, or whenever you're ready. And just one other note, later in the week, you will be receiving additional resources and link to our evaluation. And we thank you in advance for completing it. As we do reflect, we invite you to reflect with us on our work and to let us know what else you might be looking for. And so tonight we will learn more about our grief. And as the writer Helen Keller reminds us, we bereaved are not alone. We belong to the largest company in all the world, the company of those who have known suffering. We acknowledge that we are here for ourselves and we are here for one another. And we hope that by the end of our time together, you will feel more connected and held. Thank you again to Scott Bauer and his family and the Laurie S. Bauer Foundation for helping us build this beautiful support community. Let's begin our program with some words of Torah from Rabbi Dr. Joseph Ozorowski. Rabbi Joe, as he is affectionately known, is a board-certified chaplain and rabbinic counselor at JCFS Chicago. He serves the patients and families at Skokie Hospital and Glenbrook Hospital on a regular basis. I will add that calling a JCFS chaplain is not only what you might do facing end-of-life decisions or after a death of a loved one, but you may wish to call and be connected to a chaplain at any time in your life when you might want someone extra to talk to, or if you're seeking some spiritual guidance. So you will receive a flyer with Carol's information and Rabbi Joe's information, and you can always email any one of us for details, any one of the JCFS staff. Welcome, Rabbi Joe.
Thank you so much, Diane, for that lovely introduction. Before I share my words of Torah, I have to acknowledge, of course, I think we're all thinking about what's going on in Israel tonight. That's not the subject of our evening, but I think it's on all of our minds. Things are getting worse before they're getting better. And I think it's worthwhile to point out that when we come here to a group like this, we're coming to be part of something larger than we are, to be part of community. And communities are also part of something larger than just that individual community. And that's why those of us who have ties to Israel, either by family or by emotional and spiritual connections, feel some sense of concern and anxiety. And I think it's worthwhile to say that we all would want to pray for the peace of Israel, for the peace of all those who live there. And in the theme of the song that we heard so beautifully from Cantor Rachel a few minutes ago, for an olam chesed yibaneh, a world filled with kindness and with love rather than with rockets and with hatred. Tonight's evening is in the period known as Sfirat HaOmer, the period of the counting of the Omer, which connects Passover and next week's holiday of Shavuot. The Torah mentions it more than once, that there's a mitzvah to count off the days between Passover and Shavuot. There are 49 days, 7 weeks of 7 days. And in fact, today we are finishing the 44th day. And tonight, as it gets dark, we're going to be greeting the 45th night. To embellish the theme a little bit more and to unpack it just a little bit more, Passover, we might say, symbolizes liberation, the idea of freedom from. And Shavuot, which reminds us and celebrates the anniversary of the giving of the Torah, think of the Ten Commandments, Mount Sinai, might refer to freedom too. The giving of the Torah gives us a sense of structure, which also represents both accountability and responsibility, as well as showing us God's love for us. And I think that message is an important one as we are just beginning to come out of the long Shiva that has been the era of COVID, over a year of it, at a time when structure has been ripped away from us. And noting the losses that we've suffered, we might need some structure to help us along this path. So we count. Counting means we count our losses, but we also count our blessings. We grieve, but also note the things for which we have gratitude. There's one more message in here. If you know Hebrew, you know that the word for counting, sphira, the spore, is also related, more than related. It's the exact same word as the word of telling, the saper, sipur, to tell a story. It's the exact same word. How we note our losses and our blessings, we tell the story and we listen to other people telling the story. And that's why we're here tonight, to share those stories, to hear someone's story in the hope that it will guide us and give us a sense of comfort, and knowing that we are not alone, we are not by ourselves. I know that personally, the period of the year of COVID, this last year plus, has been a difficult one for me professionally. I lost a lot of patients during this past year. I know I spent my mornings when I read the Tribune looking at the obituary columns, seeing who I know, with whom I had a relationship, who I helped, whose family I touched, and it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task for any of us to note the losses that we've suffered over this past period of time. So in some sense, the year of COVID has been one long Shiva that never seems to have ended. And we're just beginning to come out of it now. Tonight, this is the time to count our blessings, count our losses, count what we have in our lives, to tell the stories, and to grieve together.
Thank you, Rabbi Joe. I would now like to introduce Dr. Nancy Wagner. She is the superintendent of River Trails School District 26 in Mount Prospect. She sadly lost her beloved husband, Alan, in April of 2020. Nancy joined one of the grief support groups facilitated by JCFS and will share some aspects of approaching the 1-year anniversary of Alan's death, or that it just passed, and her observations on what is helping her heal. I think we just have to unmute you and there we go.
All right. Good evening. I wish we were all together in person, and I would probably try to hug each and every one of you, just knowing why you're here and that you too have an ache in your heart. When I was here in December, I talked about losing my husband, Alan, in April of 2020 and what I did to find the support I needed. Here I am almost 6 months later, more than a year after his death, and I can say that some days are easier and some days my broken heart still hurts almost too much to bear. Thank you for letting me share my ups and downs with you, and I hope it provides you with some comfort or peace. I'm getting used to a normal routine of living alone on regular days. However, anticipating holidays, Alan's birthday, our anniversary, and his yard site, I had a lot of anxiety. I'm a planner and a worrier, and both of these made me think that I wouldn't get through those days. Before his birthday, I decided I wanted to do something good for others. Alan was so giving, and I do believe the world is worse off without him in it, and I wanted to start to balance the scale. I invited family and friends to a food drive in my garage on February 7th. What could go wrong? It was February in Chicago. It didn't snow, but it was unbelievably cold. My neighbors brought me their outdoor heater, and people stopped by for a few minutes, dropped off boxes and bags of food, and shared socially distanced love. There were people I hadn't seen since before COVID, and people I hadn't seen in 20 years. There were even some of Alan's friends from work that I'd never met that stopped by. The turnout was great, and the food pantry was thrilled when I had to make multiple trips to drop off all that had been donated. I was so exhausted and had cried on and off all day, but I was able to find the joy and know that Ellen would have been so happy to help so many. I think I'll make this an annual event, but I think I might move it to April, which is the anniversary of his death, when it would be a little warmer. As the weeks grew closer to Alan's yard site, April 17th, I became very stressed. I'd been setting goals every 2 weeks since January 1st with a group of friends who are my accountability buddies. The goals are typically workout, nutrition, or productivity goals. And the week before Alan's yard site, I shared my only goal for the week was to be kind to myself. That meant I could skip a workout, eat a sweet treat if I wanted one. I wouldn't chastise myself if I had a glass of wine on a weeknight, or if I hit the snooze alarm a couple of times in the morning. My friends were kind, but very firm when they told me that I needed to be kind to myself always. Alan used to help me with this, and this is not my best skill, but I'm working on it. Alan wanted to be cremated and not buried, so I didn't have a dedication or even a place to visit to observe the anniversary of his death. I didn't know what to do that day, as many of my family and friends weren't vaccinated or comfortable being in a group. So I had a few close friends come by at different times, allowing me to have some quiet time in between. I visited the park where a tree was planted in his honor and tied a raffia ribbon around a branch. I had a Zoom call with his family, and it was great to see that almost all of his nieces and nephews made the call, along with his siblings, his mom, and his aunt. I thought about him a lot, I cried a lot, and I gave thanks for the comfort of friends. The anticipation of the holidays and special days were worse than the actual days were for me. For others in my grief support group, the actual days were worse. And sometimes I catch myself thinking that my grieving isn't right. It's not normal. And sometimes I understand that we all grieve in our own ways. Some days are really hard. Some days I can identify the trigger, like preparing to share my feelings with all of you tonight. And sometimes I have no idea why my grief is turned up to 11. As much as I sometimes want to curl up in the fetal position and cry alone, I know that if I call a friend, I feel better, even if that means I cry on the phone. A little over a month ago, I was crying on the phone with my friend Cheryl, who's been living in Panama for the past 18 months. She's a great listener and helped me to understand that while everyone else is excited about the pandemic restrictions being lifted and the world returning to normal, that I know that my life will never return to the normal that I knew before. I encourage you to find those people you can cry to or cry with, or maybe your grief is different and you just want to share happy memories with someone. You may be surprised by who those people are in your life that support you this way. And if you're in need of someone to support you like this, I highly recommend joining one of the JCFS grief support groups. I feel like I have such a close bond with other people who are grieving their own losses. Finally, I want to talk to you a little about love. The best thing about love is that it's infinite. And as Rabbi Karen Kadar says often, love is the answer. It really doesn't matter what the question is. Alan was full of love, and I will always love him. I found that my heart hurts less when I am loving others. I'm sharing love with my friends and my family, knowing that I need to love them for both Alan and for me. I've made some new friends and deepened friendships with others since Alan passed. They don't replace my Alan, but they do help my heart feel full of love. One of the positive changes in my life since Alan passed is that now I tell everyone that I love them. Well, not everyone, but those that I love. I never said this to my friends before, and now we all say it to one another. I encourage you to share that love, let people know. It's the good in the world we want to remain long after we're all gone. And I would like to end tonight with the same words I ended with in December, as some things are still the same. So my journey of grief continues. I believe I will grieve the loss of my best friend every day for the rest of my life. However, I'm now able to find the joy in the little things and even catch myself smiling rather than crying sometimes when a memory of a good time pops into my head. This is my wish for each of you listening tonight. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And we count you among our blessings. We will now hear from Laurie Garber Amram. Laurie serves as a grief and mental health specialist at JCFS Chicago and runs several of our grief programs. She's a certified mindfulness instructor, and after her teaching tonight on the wilderness of grief, based on the work of Dr. Alan Wolfelt, she will lead us in a brief mindfulness exercise. So if you have a photo of your loved one nearby, we will invite you to gaze upon the picture when Laurie instructs us to do so. And just as a reminder, we will remain on mute during the program to allow everyone to have some privacy with their memories. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. And thank you for being here this evening to share both your sorrow as well as to celebrate and honor your loved one in a community at a time when familiar rituals have not been available or accessible. Thank you for being here to support one another and be supported. Thank you to Rabbi Joe for your instructive and wise words on how Judaism offers a framework to support us through the loss of someone you love. Nancy, we are so very grateful to you for sharing your grief journey with us. We meet here tonight, squarely in the middle of spring, the season of hope and rebirth. Daffodils, the first flower to bloom from beneath the snow into spring's chill, make their grand entrance everywhere. The daffodil symbolizes rebirth, resilience, and new beginnings, reminding us that the process of life is ever changing. As we learn from Nancy, the journey of grief is a healing one that begins here. Here in what the respected grief educator, Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who heads the Center for Loss, calls the wilderness of grief. Here, like our ancestors wandering the desert, we may feel lost, alone, frightened, disoriented, and helpless. Those who are here tonight know and share those feelings. You also know that grief is not a linear process. It is more like a roller coaster ride through a confusing and dizzying array of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You may even question your sanity at times. Let's take a moment to study the range of what you may be experiencing in the wilderness of grief. The range of physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioral manifestations of grief is often contradictory. From exhaustion to restlessness, despair to numbness, insomnia to difficulty getting out of bed, You may experience the full range of the ways that grief expresses itself at different times, or sometimes even on the same day. This too is the wilderness in bloom, and navigating through it is possible, as Nancy has shown us, one step at a time. The journey of grief is a healing one with landmarks to guide you along the way. Let's touch briefly upon each of the 10 landmarks of the healing journey that were illustrated in Nancy's experience. Acknowledging the death of the person you love. Initially, the death does not seem real. You may feel disoriented and confused. It's hard to make sense of this new reality, life without your loved one. Accepting the pain as an inevitable response to the loss of someone you love. Your emotions will help you to heal your broken heart. Feel them, listen to them, and let them help you move forward and accept that your life will be different. You will be different. Just as the daffodils emerge from the deep darkness to feel the warmth of the sun, so will you. Understanding that what you are feeling is what others who experience loss may feel, and that your experience and healing journey are unique to you and your relationship with your deceased. Expressing your feelings is essential to healing. Grief is an internal experience that seeks expression through the mourning process. Expression of grief, whether written, spoken, or physical, is the painful and healing movement of grief. Find ways to journal your feelings, speak your feelings, move with your feelings, and rest with your feelings. How you share and express yourself is for you to determine. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. You work through your emotions. And as you do, hold on to the love and positive emotions. Death is the end of a life, not the end of your relationship. Recognizing the range of confusing, contradictory emotions of grief that can make you feel that you're losing your mind and that you will never recover. Understanding that this is part of the grieving process and that you can and will make your way through. Caring for yourself, starting with yourself by asking, what do I need right now? Sometimes the answer will surprise you. Sometimes you may need to push yourself to call someone, take a walk, or set some doable goals. Other times, you may need to give yourself permission to do less, rest more, and as Nancy shared, indulge yourself. Rethinking life without your loved one. What has changed? We know ourselves by the relationships we have, such as parent, spouse, friend, son, or daughter. The death of someone close to you changes an important way that you see yourself, and you will grapple with reorganizing yourself internally to accommodate the change. Reaching within and reaching out for support. Identify who is in your circle of support, beginning with yourself. The circle may include pets, friends, neighbors, co-workers, support group members, friends from your faith community, and/or family. Each support person can offer something different. Some friends you can cry with, others you can walk with, and others you will share a meal with. A pet will always remind you that you are needed and offer unconditional love and companionship. Who and what is in your circle of support? Do you need additional support through participation in a group and/or a health professional? The care you invest in yourself now will help you to carry your loved one's memory and legacy forward in meaningful ways. Reconciling that grief is a part of life and does not go away. You will carry your grief with you, making space to accommodate your loss, not while moving on from grief, but rather moving forward with grief to re-engage with life. Remembering your loved one. How will you remember your loved one? Nancy shared that she had a tree planted in a park that she could visit as one way to remember Alan. She had a food drive in honor of his generous and loving heart. One woman shared that she still poured a cup of coffee for her husband each morning, as was part of their morning ritual. In the park near my home, I see plaques dedicated to beloveds on benches, sidewalks, and the bases of tree trunks in the park. And Scott Bauer supports our programming to honor his wife, Laurie. What is meaningful to you and your loved one? This will be a challenging spring for many of us for a variety of reasons. Re-entry and reopenings invite a reemergence into life as we knew it. We've all been impacted by the events of the past 14 months, but for those of you who are mourning a loss during the pandemic, those who are journeying with their grief, you may feel out of sync with others who anticipate the re-entry with excitement, ready to leave the heaviness of the pandemic behind, planning get-togethers and other activities. Consider how you will prepare yourself with the extra support that you may need. At the end of tonight's program, you will have the chance to stay on for another 20 or so minutes and meet in small groups for conversation while others, with others, as well as to learn more about the programs we offer to further support you. A listing of resources will also be sent out by email for all participants this evening. In the 49 days, as Rabbi Joe mentioned, between Passover and Shavuot, when we received the Torah at Mount Sinai, our ancestors journeyed through the desert one step at a time. It has become a tradition for some to prepare themselves to receive the Torah by considering a different aspect of our character each of the 49 nights. Tonight is the 45th night of the counting of the Omer. Tonight, we are called to consider how we can cultivate harmony, beauty, and compassion in our lives. This is a time to ask how compassionate and kind you are in approaching the pain of grief. Can you see, feel, and cherish fleeting moments of beauty that life offers side by side with grief? How can you live in a bit more harmony with both the pain and joy in life? And may we all be blessed with the healing power of greater harmony, beauty, and compassion on the path of our life journeys this spring. In Judaism, we say, may their memory be for a blessing. Please look at and take in the person in your photo. Say their name quietly or silently, and consider the ways in which they have inspired and influenced you and the life you live. This is their legacy. Your life and the light you bring to the world is the way you continue to honor your loved one and all that they brought to you. May your loved one be the source of blessings that you bring through the life that you live, and may their memory be for a blessing. Look at all the others who have joined you in this community in sacred sorrow and walk through the wilderness one step at a time, just like you. Silently thank one another for their support. And now, if you choose, share your beloved with us by holding their photo up to the camera. Please note that we will remain on mute to respect everyone's private experience. If you would like to share and see the photos being held up, click on the gallery view option in the right-hand corner of the Zoom screen view options. It's in the center of my screen. There's also a view button in the right-hand corner. As you take time to look at the faces that represent our connections to the people who are still important to us and will remain forever present in our hearts, we invite Hazan Rachel Rosenberg, cantor at Congregation Rodfei Tzedek in Hyde Park, whose beautiful music helped us to set the stage for our program, to accompany us in these moments of reflection, memory, and honor. Hazan Rosenberg will conclude our program with her thoughts on music as healing and how the pieces we chose to include tonight have significance for our healing and remembering.
Thank you so much, Laurie.
Thank you.
Feel free to join me in this nigun if you'd like. Nine, 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 nine. I will build this world in love. Na 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 na. And you will build this world in love. Na 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 na. And if we build this world in love, na na na. Na 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 na. Olam chesed yibana. Na 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 na. So thank you everyone for enabling me to be with you at such a poignant time in your lives. And I will share that I also lost some loved ones this past year. My very best friend from high school, and several other friends. And I have found that the nigun is a healing, can be very healing for us, either by singing it, by chanting it, by listening to it. You can go on YouTube and search for nigunim and pretty much listen to them all day. So the melody that I shared, both at the beginning of the program and just now, is a song called Olam Chesed Yibaneh, which is a phrase from the Psalms, and it means a world of chesed will be built. Chesed, I have never found a good translation for the word chesed, but it's some blend of loving kindness and abounding love and goodness. And Rabbi Menachem Creditor wrote this song right after September 11th, right after his daughter was born. And he took the moment not to focus on the grief and the horror of the world, but really to focus on the goodness and the love, which is always greater. So I'm honored to share that with you today. And again, I encourage you to seek out the nigun, seek out the melodies that can be so healing. In particular, one of the artists that I love listening to is Joey Weissenberg. He's affiliated with Machon Hadar, the Hadar Institute in New York. And there's a whole cadre of musicians that keep churning out beautiful, beautiful melodies and messages based on Jewish teachings. One of those musicians, his name is, besides Joey Weissenberg, his name is Rabbi Yosef Goldman. And he has many wonderful melodies too. And I'm about to share one of those with you. But first, I'll also share that over the past year, more than a year, as a cantor in a community, Rodfei Tzedek, as Diane mentioned and Laurie mentioned, we needed to find a way to come together and express our communal support of each other and to keep our connection, as you know, because we were not able to be together in person. And besides offering tefillot, offering services that we streamed on Facebook Live and also some on Zoom, my husband Chuck and I created some music videos that helped us take some of our favorite melodies and turn them into something that involved other musicians. And even though we were not able to be together in the same space, we were able to put them together then to share with our community. And so I'd like to offer one of those now. As I mentioned, it's a song whose music is by Rabbi Yosef Goldman of Hadar. And the words are the words of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od. The whole world is a very narrow bridge. V'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. And the main thing is not to be afraid. And I often find this verse to be helpful and healing and supportive for me during tough times. And I offer it to each of you in the hopes that it will provide some comfort now and any time that you might need it going forward. Olam Gesher Tsar, Narrow Bridge. The great Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, taught, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od. The whole world is a very narrow bridge. V'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. And the main thing is not to be afraid. Let's keep this teaching in mind as we move forward in the next weeks and months ahead. Let's remember not to be afraid. Let's move forward with courage and hope. Please join us. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם גשר, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל, לא לפחד, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל, לא לפחד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם גשר, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל, לא לפחד, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל, לא לפחד,
Wow. Thank you, Cantor Rosenberg and your team for a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful musical presentation. I saw a lot of people swing, hopefully in a comforting, really comforting way. So as we conclude our formal part of our program, we wanted to thank you very much for being with us. We offer our deep gratitude and thanks to the Laurie S. Bauer Foundation for Sudden Loss for supporting our program this evening. And I especially would like to thank my esteemed colleagues, our evening's presenters, especially Rabbi Joe Ozarowski, Cantor Rachel Rosenberg, our dear Nancy Wagner, and Laurie Garber Amram. Toda, toda rabah. We thank you very much. Two quick announcements. In a moment, I'm going to pass the mic to Marcia Reynes to introduce herself and explain the last part of our evening. And the second is, as I mentioned, we will be sending out resources and additional information to you in the next few days, along with our program evaluation. So please take a few moments and fill out the evaluation. We really would like your honest feedback, and feel free to let us know what else we might be able to do for you in the future. And if you're ready to say goodnight, which we totally understand, we wish you a peaceful evening. Marcia, please join us on screen for an explanation of our small groups that are going to take place in the next 20 or so minutes. And I'm ready to put everyone in breakout rooms when you give me the signal.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcia Reynes, and I'm so glad you joined us this evening. My role at JCFS Chicago includes facilitating grief support groups for those who are mourning. If you would like more information about the groups we offer, please be in touch with me, and I look forward to connecting with you. And now we're going to invite you to small breakout groups, and we hope you can stay on to meet with others and to share more about your loved one in your grief journey. When you see the pop-up window inviting you to a breakout room, please accept it and you will join either Rabbi Joe or myself. We hope this evening has been a source of comfort and support, and we thank you again for joining us. Wishing you all a peaceful evening. Diane, we're ready for the breakout groups.